May we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Krupa.
Here.
Councilmember Myers absent. Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Mayor Males.
Here.
All members are present with the exception of Councilmember Meyer.
We need to excuse.
Council, oh, I'm sorry.
We need to formally,
You may.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Meyer.
I had it typed right here and I was going to say that, but that's fine.
Not going fast enough.
City Clerk, may we have a roll call?
I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Myers' absence. Motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Do a roll call. Councilmember Krupa.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal.
Yes.
Mayor Males.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
At this time, members of the public may only comment on an item appearing on the special meeting agenda. Please adhere to the following when addressing the council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments should be directed to the council as a whole and not directed to individual council members. City Clerk, are there any registered speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. There's no registered speakers, but I'd like to call it on the Zoom call. If there's anyone that'd like to participate during public comment, now is the time to raise your hand and we'll give you just a few moments. Seeing none, Mayor, there's no public comment.
Thank you. We will move to the discussion item.
Honorable Mayor, mayors, members of the City Council, thank you. I have a brief report on the Measure U Oversight Committee that consists of 7 members appointed by the City Council to serve 2-year terms. Tonight, I have a small majority for reappointment. Last month, the City Clerk's office conducted a series of phone calls to reach out to those members, and we received notification that George Clark was interested for reappointment. George Schaefer's interested for reappointment. Tammy Chenault is interested for reappointment. And I received just as of late that Holly Temez is not interested for reappointment. And Marianne Daron is also not interested in reappointment. So for tonight's meeting, we have for consideration 3 folks that are interested in reappointment and 1 new application, which is Jerry Ann Franklin.
What was that last name?
Jerry Ann Franklin.
No, I
So-
didn't hear Susan Cosmo or Stacy Olson.
Suzanne Cosma, as listed in the staff report, has wished to no longer participate in the Measure U committee, and the same goes for Stacy Olson.
Okay,
We
thank
did
you.
receive letter notification from both members.
So we have Mr. Clark, Mr. Schaefer, and Ms. Chenault, who are on the commission already and are willing to stay on.
That is correct. And so moving along in the staff report, we do have 3 questions that the City Council may choose to ask the applicants to answer if they would like to do for public review, even for the reappointments. We do have 1 of the committee members here, George Clark, and the others who did not register, but they were interested for reappointment. And that is the end of my staff report.
Sure.
Okay. In the staff report, we have that Jerry Ann Franklin and Felicia Young. She has been appointed to the library board. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
All righty. So, well, it's good that we have 1. Have some comments and then I will make a motion if that's okay. 1, of course, we have to go back out. We have to advertise this. And my suggestion on that, I was just talking with Councilmember Peterson that we should be ashamed of ourselves in the way we advertise and try to get the word out because we're not successful. And I think part of it is that we as council members also maybe aren't participating, at least on social media, in sharing and forwarding and doing that with the posts that the city has put out. And the hard copy of the announcement of, are you interested in boards and commissions for the city? I had picked up a hard copy at the city one day, very impressed. I mean, it was done extremely well, front and back. And then I did find it on the city's web or on the city's Facebook page. But I also found that it had only been posted once. And I didn't even share it, but I shared it today. And I got 3 or 4 comments on it already. So I think when we put it out there up from as the city of Hemet, if we all share, we probably have more followers than the city does. And I think we communicate more with people like that. And when we share it and get the word out, if people have questions, they will come back and ask us questions, which I think is probably a good way of doing it. And I would suggest that we do this and maybe continue that portion of it for about 30 days. But in the meantime, since we have 3 people, and I just happen to know all 3 of these people and think they're pretty good people, and they've been on, we need institutional knowledge and memory on these committees and commissions. And my comment or motion on that would be that we reappoint these 3. But then also look at the ordinance or the whatever we're governed by on this and find out if we can stagger the terms so that not everybody is coming due at the same time. If there's 7 people, we can do staggering on it so that it makes sense, so that a majority of the people are not new or all due, coming up for renomination or reappointment at the same time.
The appointment's for 2 years, correct?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is let's reappoint, but then some of the new ones that we appoint, let's either appoint them for 3 years and so that you get that carryover, or for just 1 year so that they come up at uneven times. And I'm sure legal is chomping at the bit to tell me what to do here.
I would never presume to tell the city council what to do. I can only offer legal advice. The language of the ordinance says that the term shall be for 2 years. It doesn't say that you have to or you can't stagger them. As it stands now, they tend to be reappointed in the spring or winter immediately following a general election. If the city council wanted to set up a system where they were staggered, we could work with staff on how the appointments could be made to make that happen. What I anticipate is that you would appoint a full committee now for the 2-year term, and then you could perhaps reappoint 4 of them in a year for an additional 2 years, and that would get them on staggered 2-year terms. That's just off the top of my head, but we have to be careful. We're not allowed to tinker with the ordinance.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Is that in the actual wording in the ordinance or in the supplemental
The only language,
wording?
the only language in the ordinance that addresses this point, it simply says each member of the committee shall serve a term of 2 years, and such service shall be at the pleasure of the city council. So to my way of thinking, you could appoint them for a 2-year term now, and then a year from now, you could appoint half of them again for 2 years. And then what you end up with is staggered terms at
Staggered
that point.
terms.
That may be one way of strictly complying with the ordinance and also achieving that result if that's something the council wants to do. I don't think you need to make a change to the ordinance to make that happen.
Okay.
And then just as a note, although the city council did not approve the city council protocols,
Yes.
they remain in draft form. The city council did get through its review of section 7.3 of the protocols, which proposed a system for appointments to the Measure U committee. So that does exist. One of the things that was included in that was a required public notice that the applications had to be provided to the city council 14 days before the meeting so that you could look at the applications and a couple of other things. So not necessarily recommended that you go with that process, but as you think about looking towards the future, I know we have two members of the protocols committee here. It sounds like public notice was something that
Mhm.
was of concern. Just consider maybe looking at that language if there's something else that you want there going forward.
Right. And just additional comment on that, that in going through what we have today in the staff report, and I appreciate the fact that the all the reports came out earlier than they have been in the past, so we have more time to do it. It didn't necessarily afford me more time to go through it, but at least I had it. But on appointment like this, it would, to me, it would be beneficial if we received all of the information on all of them, probably 14 days in advance, which is giving us more time to go through them. Also listing all of, including their addresses, because I think we as a council should know in what part of town everybody lives in if we want. I mean, everybody could come in and they could live on the same street, basically. And that's not a fair representation of our community. So I think us having their addresses, I'm not saying putting it out there or doing whatever it is you do, with the rest of it, would be a fair thing. But also then that, we then interview in person, because I think that's very valuable, and go from there. And maybe we could do that when we go out to advertise because we have 4 positions to fill, basically.
I do think that on the address issue, I think that the addresses are redacted in the backup to comply with state law provisions about disclosing those addresses electronically on the
Mhm.
internet. I don't think that there would be any prohibition on those addresses being provided to the councils, maybe a hard copy, as long as we're not, or even in an email, as long as we're not posting it on the internet.
Right.
And if I may, I wanted to add some context to the advertising. We have been doubling our efforts, maybe even tripling our efforts in the last 6 months as far as advertisements go to fill all the vacancies and upcoming vacancies. So we've been doing a couple of promotional efforts, primarily with the mobile home board that we're trying to fill as well. And the results have been good. Actually, in the last couple of weeks, we've received 8 applications for the mobile home board. So it's working. So I appreciate your comments and in efforts to share those social media promotions or ads that we advertise.
Do we put the paper flyers in different city buildings, like in the library and police station, fire? Nobody really goes, well, I guess they do. They go over to the fire admin. I was going to say, nobody goes to the fire station and public works and that type of thing, so that all of our employees also know that we're asking for people to come and volunteer their time to serve on different boards and commissions. And then all of our employees can talk to their friends and, whatever people that they run into and say, hey, there is an opportunity to represent or to sit on this particular commission, and go forward, just get the word out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting thing, and it really leads to a new appreciation of government. And I can say that kind of tongue in cheek at times.
Yeah,
I have a question for the attorney here also on what's the protocol on changing the name? Shouldn't it be changed to Measure H, or does it stay at Measure
So
U?
that's a good point, Mayor. The formal name of the committee is the Citizen Oversight Committee for the Hemet Transactions and Use Tax.
Yes.
Call it the Measure U Committee because people know what that means. If the council wanted to direct us to start using the shorthand Measure H, that might make sense because that's the current measure we have in front of us. So up to you. But the legal name is the Citizen Oversight Committee.
Okay.
I think if you look at the online, like the agendas, I think that's what they actually call it.
And the short answer to Councilmember Krupa's questions are yes. We have flyers over at the library with applications, and then we actually have some in the foyer right now for folks to pull application or flyer.
Very good. Okay, I know I did make a motion. It hasn't been seconded, but before we do that, Mayor, since Mr. Clark is here, could we hear from him? I said, since Mr. Clark is here, see if there's anything he would like to say to us
Yeah, definitely.
about being on the commission.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not all good deeds go right. I go by Dick Clark. This is, I have been part of Measure U for 2 sessions now, 2. I live over on Terrace Drive. I am a retired law enforcement officer, just shy of 25 years. And when you add my fire experience in, I'm first responder close to 35 years. I came about 6-7 years ago to Hemet, followed my wife after we both retired. She was born here. Her family, pioneers of the Valley, Howard Rose Company. For those of you that have been around long enough, that was her family. And my wife and I have always been, in one way or another, in the small towns that we've lived, have been involved either in commissions or through the police department. I was given traffic safety reports to comment on and things like that. So I have the time and I continued my service. If you have any specific questions, I'm an open book. Go ahead.
I do have, oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm paying attention to. In your opinion, is the oversight committee doing its job well? Is there things that maybe you think should be changed, or are you able to digest and this isn't an insinuation or anything, it's just a question. When you get numbers and reports like that, do you find that they are on a layman's level of understanding where dollars come from and where dollars go and the appropriation and all of that? How do you
I haven't
relate
had
to
a
that?
problem with it because I'm used to looking at those kind of budgets. Even as a sub member in my POA organization and looking at city budgets versus what our contract was, I'm used to looking at some of those things. So you can tell you, if I got a question, I'm going to bring it up. I'm not, I don't hold back. If I disagree, I say that too. There've been a number of times where a few of us have asked that we've agreed with what the letter to the council would be, but either with a caveat or a question or something to that effect. From me, you'll get what I believe. And I'm a first responder backer all the way.
Right. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Since you've been on, does it look, can you speak to the fact that the money is going to first responders? Like it's going to what it said it's going to?
I have no problem with where the money is going. In fact, just about every one of our meetings, I'll probably even bring up some suggestions.
Like what?
One of the first ones I really pushed at, and it might be because I got a bone to pick, was to get the, I'm sorry, my toes coming through to me in my head. JP, what's the outfit that's now underneath the fire department?
Oh, building and safety.
Not building
Not
safe.
Rocks.
Rocks.
One more. Code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement. That'd be too long for tonight to discuss. But
Okay.
a long time ago, I said, let's bring these people under. police and or fire. Let's get the right training. Let's get the right background checks. And let's take a look at what Measure U can do to improve that. That was right there. The council has followed a lot of recommendations for the equipment. And when I first came on, the fire department's turnouts look like patch pants. And I've been through that. My first couple of years in fire were terrible. You wondered, you came back from a fire and you looked at the bottom of your pants and they were singed. And I thank the council for coming through with that. And we just, I think it's doing a good job. I was a little bit vocal with this last election. I think there was some unfair attitudes toward it. I don't think that it was right, but I think it's being done the right way. And there's the checks and balances for that. The only
Appreciate you.
thing I would suggest, and I'm hoping the city attorney will do that this year, is as soon as we get people in, that they get the training as far as, what's the proper word for it? With ethics training and that few people that I think got close to that line during this last election. I mean, personally, if I put something online, I think just about every time it said, I am a member, but I am talking as a citizen.
So you're referring to the last appointment session for Measure U Oversight Commission, not the
The
general
last,
election?
Measure H
Yes, okay.
election. So I understand in the past, we've gone like in every other year. There's so many new people coming on, that training needs to be done ASAP. That's my only suggestion. And I do have a person that I'm taking an application to. I talked to her a couple of nights ago. She's over in off of Cajon, District 2 also. And she's very interested in serving for the city.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Just before you go, just out of curiosity, when you got on the committee, did you happen to go back in time to see like where other monies were spent?
Before I got on the committee, I took a look at some of the past budgets, some of the meetings. I was lucky enough to have met one or two people and talked to them. I don't have a problem because I can see even in some of the one or two of the things that have been questioned, I can see the whys. I don't have a problem in my time that I've been on it with any of the spending of any of the funds. I think they were very appropriate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I did put a motion out
Second.
and that's to reappoint Mr. Clark, Mr. Schaefer, and Ms. Chenault.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Council, please cast your votes. That's a motion to reappoint George Schaefer, Tammy Chenault, and George Clark for the Measure U committee.
And we have Jerry Ann Franklin. Does anyone know her? Or
Do what?
Jerry Ann Franklin?
We haven't interviewed her.
I'm sorry?
We haven't interviewed her, so I would then, when we approve these three,
Just
then
these
she would
three.
be one of them that we
Okay.
bring back for an interview.
That motion passes 4-0.
And do we need a motion or consensus or whatever to continue this 30 days and re-advertise and council to share in sharing?
So you don't need to take any action if you're simply looking to not appoint further people. It's generally been the council's practice when you are continuing something to make a motion to continue it to a date certain, specify the date. If there's any additional actions you'd like city staff to do, your practice has generally been to include what those actions are. So it's clear what you want staff to do.
Want staff to go out for more advertising.
Yes. And when applications, and I don't know how you do that, one at a time or wait till after 2 weeks and then give them to us all at the time, or have us come in and read them, whatever.
It sounds like, I heard a couple of comments. It sounds like you'd like at least 30 more days before you interview and appoint. It sounds like you'd like staff to do additional advertising. And it sounds like you'd like to have access to those applications at least 14 days prior to the meeting. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how much time do you want to give for applications to be filed? Because you need to have that time period, then you're going to need your 14-day review period, and then you're going to need the city council meeting that follows that. So how many days would you like to have the application period be open for?
Go ahead and suggest that.
What was that?
So
Just to round it off, I would say you could have 30 days for the applications to be out, and then we would have the applications 15 days, just half that time.
and then the next meeting following that.
So that would be the last or the fourth week of April.
So if you did for 30 days, you know, back of the envelope here, it's till April 13th. If you wanted to add 14 days to review, you would need till the 27th. So that actually goes beyond the second meeting in April. So it would be the first meeting in May, which makes a little bit of sense because that's about when you'll be going through the budget process, which is something that typically you involve the Measure U or Measure H Citizen Oversight Committee in to an extent.
I'm
So-
good with that.
That's good.
So perhaps I could help craft a motion, council member.
Please.
So perhaps the city council could move that the application process shall be held open for an additional 30 days. That city staff shall attempt additional methods of raising public awareness about that application process. That the application process will close after 30 days. And that all of the applications will be provided to the city council at that time. And that the city council, or that it will be placed on the meeting for the first meeting in May
The
or
9th.
2023. I assume you guys want to have another special meeting, and you know, frankly, I think you should probably maybe have a little bit of a conversation with the city manager. Getting into May, we're talking about budget season. You know, there may be other meetings and study sessions scheduled in that time period. So I'd hate to, but the first meeting in May seems like the default. It's a long motion. City clerk, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Second.
yeah, and what he said, and yes.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. That motion passes 4-0.
And if I could just add, maybe, and this is a question, that if we get 40 applications, we could maybe do just an entire special meeting that didn't involve a council meeting, so that, or even if we get, you know, a lot of them, wouldn't that be awesome? It would really, we did that one time and I don't remember what it was for, but we had applications that we couldn't believe, and we had to have a special meeting to interview all of them.
So there's nothing in the ordinance that requires the appointment occur at a regular meeting.
Okay,
So
good.
if the council would like to set a special meeting for that purpose, that's your prerogative.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I don't even know where it says adjourn. Like to adjourn this closed meeting until our regular session. Okay.
Down and go.
Good evening. I would like to call the March 14th, 2023 regular city council meeting to order. I would like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city website and by Zoom teleconference. I would like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear you. City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Krupa.
Here.
Councilmember Meyer is absent. Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal.
Here.
Mayor Bales.
Here.
All members are present with the exception of Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to excuse Councilmember Meyer's absence?
I make a motion to excuse Carly Meyer from this session.
In a second.
Second.
City Clerk, may we get a roll call?
Council, please cast your votes. I have motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal to excuse Councilmember Meyer's absence. That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. The invocation will be by Blake Booth from Tough as Nails Church. After which Councilmember Peterson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Bow your heads with me. Lord God, we give you this time. I just pray that you'd be with our council tonight. That you'd be with our city. I pray that you'd help their decisions to be judicious and wise. I pray, Lord God, that it move our city forward. I thank you that the best days are ahead and not behind us. God, we just ask that your hand would be on this meeting. And Lord, we just ask that you be with Carly right now, wherever she's at, with the hospital, whatever's going on. We ask that you would take care of her, that you'd heal her, and send her on a speedy recovery in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's a 3-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. For those that wish to join by Zoom, you'll be asked to raise your hand if you would like to speak. Please state your name and item you're commenting on before speaking. We will take public comments for items listed on the agenda. Patricia Joy.
Problems with you tonight. I have lived in,
Can you please speak into the microphone? I have
I
trouble.
have lived in Hemet now for 3 winters, and every winter my property floods. I live right next door to Forest River. You have pictures of the flooding. Okay. I've been trying to get the city the concrete area between the curb and the sidewalk, which is actually city property. I'm charged with maintaining it. Okay, it has really bad old lock rock in it, which is now illegal, and nobody does it anymore. So that's not an option for me. And the reason for the flooding is I live next door to Forest River. On the other side of my fence is a ditch that drains their water onto the street. Now, our wonderful city engineer told me that when they fixed the pavement on Mayberry, that would fix the problem. And his own street department has told me, no, that's not going to fix the problem. CalMax came out and they had the contract to tear up the old sidewalk and repair that drain. And I asked them what they thought. And one of the guys said, lady, the only thing that's going to stop that flooding is a storm drain. storm drain. Anyway, at the end, the storm drain is at Lion, which is about a quarter of a mile away. And for some reason, our side of the street, the north side, will flood all the way into the middle of the street, while the south side is just like normal, never it goes over the curb. Anyway, I need to have that concreted really bad. And the storm drain, was doing its thing. And then Forest River got in the act and they built a dam. And if you see this number 2, this is their little drain here with this material under it. And this is the dam. And seriously, it rained again, flooded way like 14 feet into the lot. And it just ran over the dam and ran out and, did its thing. And then, I don't know, right after that, some lady came out with an employee and they drug a bunch of stuff around and blocked up all of this and put one of their little donut things around the drain. Okay. And I have no idea what's going on there, but I began to suspect that their drain on their side is clogged. Okay. And then we had rain the 5th. Okay. And if you look at that, you can see, you can't even see the drain. Okay. It just flooded out everything. And down here at the bottom, you can see they had put concrete there and it kind of went under the wooden stuff they piled up and kind of fell in there, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're, the city spent a fortune repairing that drain and it'll only work if the water could go through it. And I really don't think it is.
Okay.
And I'm really tired of the flooding of my property. It comes up over the parkway, which is between the curb and the sidewalk. And at times it floods all the way over my sidewalk. And
Patricia, your time's up, but
Okay.
I just want to let you know, I drove by there today. I took plenty of pictures. It does flood on that side. I seen it for myself. I'll be sending pictures to our engineer. And I can't give you a date or time if it's going to get fixed or what, but I will submit the pictures and hopefully we can get something done for you.
I've sent the engineer a lot of pictures. A lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Nicholas.
Mayor, Council, thank you. My name is Tim Nicholas, 1101 Mayberry. Nostalgia, I point to you. Hemet plant opens on a roll. Okay, I'm talking about Forest River. As the excitement and everything was welling for everyone when Forest River opened its doors 8 years ago this month, all of you now should be aware that Forest River has not been a good corporate neighbor. The pictures I believe you may all have, if not, I have some, will show that. The fact that they came in there on the footprint, as they said, of Skyline, they have really abused that as well. Management at the opening of the plant said, "Oh, we boasted we spent $1 million refitting 2 buildings." Well, in 8 years, they've neglected the footprint that they say they came in there on, the irrigation systems, the landscape, the plantings of said footprint have deteriorated grossly. The fence, or what passes for a fence, has deteriorated to a barrier that one might compare to a something in a ghetto. It's really bad. And I don't think a ghetto would paraphrase it. But to talk about, for just a paraphrase for a second, the Hemet City ordinances about commercial industrial businesses, not to read the book to you guys. A block wall, 6 feet in height, on sides that adjoin and facing residential zoned property. It's kind of what it says. But however, the trailers being over 6 foot, and in that case, a wall, say 12 to 14 foot should be what they would have and would be more to meet code. This hasn't been done. Why? When you see other properties in this area, even one on the corner of Acacia and Lion, who does have walls that keep people from seeing their stuff. The Forest River has continued to operate with impunity. Page 2 shows the weeds, the fence, the razor wire adjoining private property that they feel is necessary to protect them, but they really don't care about what the neighbors see. The weeds, razor wire, all this is what I guess they think people want to see. I don't know. Further, picture 1 shows a blatant thumbing of the nose is the best way to put it that they do of the city laws regarding trash containment over the past 8 years here in Hemet. Because they allow their debris to blow all over neighborhoods, people's yards. Among what they dump in that bin, though, is sawdust. Sawdust is collected from an extractor vacuum on the Hemet side. The particle board that's used in making RVs contains formaldehyde. So I ask it by a show of hands, somebody would like to have me take a cup of formaldehyde and just dump it on your front porch. I
Tim,
don't think so.
Tim,
But when it blows over,
Tim,
everyone's house.
you've already exceeded your 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. To talk about something that's been an 8-year problem in 3 minutes is a difficulty, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hope to see something from this.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Leonardo C. Timekeeper. I got it. Wait till he starts speaking.
Hello, council members. Thank you for your time. I've been here before. I complained about Valleywide and I didn't receive any answers. But my complaint has to do with their reluctance to permit soccer in the soccer designated fields. There is a lack of maintenance at Jerry Searle, and that park is never used for soccer. This park is very much playable. However, they stated, like I said before, that they want to hire security to have them come open and close the park for soccer usage. In Hemet, there's 11 baseball fields and there's only one usable soccer field that happens to be at Valleywide. I don't think it's very much fair for the soccer community. The soccer community is in a decline here. Most of the teams have gone to either Menifee or Temecula or any other city other than here, for the simple fact that like I said, there's one soccer field. This soccer field is used by youth when they practice during the week. It's used by whatever remaining soccer league is here. Also, this soccer field tends to be used for flag football. When it is flag football season, they maintain it and prep it, and they send everyone soccer to go play somewhere else, which, like I said, there's nowhere else to play. Between Jerry Searle and Valleywide, there's 4 fields and only one is usable, which, like I said, it's not really fair. Furthermore, I'd like to know what the function of Valleywide is here in Hemet. I think it's redundant that you guys pay Valleywide to maintain it. We, the citizens, whoever's, using the permits, is also paying Valleywide. So it's a lot of money going out, but I don't really know if you guys make any money from them managing the fields. I don't know if they have any jobs for us. I think this is a good opportunity for us to create a Hemet Parks and Recreation. I don't know if that would be, too much to ask for, but I think that it is something that you guys should look into, especially the lack of maintenance and how they give preference to flag football in the soccer designated fields. I think we should do better in managing, valley-wide. They tend to, like I said, just overall ignore soccer. And I think that's really sad considering soccer is the fastest growing sport in the United States. In a few years, we're gonna have a World Cup. Soccer is just exploding everywhere. And in Hemet, it's being limited by valley-wide. And I mean, I didn't receive any answers last time. I did provide pictures of the lack of maintenance. It went on for over 3 to 4 months in valley-wide. And now they actually closed 2 fields with, by putting a gate around the fields. So I really don't understand, what's going on.
Okay.
We can't even go and play pickup.
Leonardo, your time's up, but I want you to see me after the meeting. I want to give you a card because we are talking about soccer fields at the office, and we will be doing something for soccer because we have a lot of people that are coming to us and talking about it, and they want something. So see me after the meeting. I'll give you a card, and No, I'm gonna give you my card. We're gonna get in contact with each other. So, okay, thank you. Oh my gosh. I hope I say it right this time. Terry Larned? Did I say it right? I've known him forever and I can't say his last name right.
Mayor Males and the committee, the council members. I have a few things I want to say first. Some of the things that are going on at the Post. On the March 18th, Saturday at 12:30 PM, we have our Vietnam Veteran Welcome Home Luncheon for all the veterans in the Valley. So you're invited to come to that. If you know a veteran, have them come down. This is the canteen will be open, and it's free to the veterans that are coming in. And this is in association with the Outreach Warriors at 124 North Ramona Street here in Hemet. I also want to talk about our fishing tournament. We have our fishing tournament that's going to be on April 15th. We've already got 288 kids as of a couple hours ago. And it's going to be held at the Golden Era Golf Course Lakes. This is a fantastic thing for the kids. We've got lots of good sponsors and donors, and we're getting more all the time because we're just getting a lot of kids. They'll have you a free breakfast and also free lunch. Last thing I want to talk about is the Rent Control Committee. Now, we had applications put in. Mine was one of them, and I haven't heard anything. It's been about, a month and a half? And that was a big topic when it was first brought up here to the council. And we didn't have a rent control committee, so they said, well, let's put one back together. And I still haven't heard anything or know what's going on. So I think now we have a new city manager. And this is what, week 3? Week 4. Oh. I guess you have to go through all that. There's a lot in there, but the rent control committee is something that is needed for the city. And we've got a lot of complaints about people being rent price gouged, and they've got nowhere to send their complaints to. Thank you.
About Ramona, nothing about Ramona.
Oh, okay. Ramona. Now that's going to be in April. We've got it extended. We got 3 weekends that we're going to be doing this now. So this is a fantastic pageant. We've got 100-year anniversary. So if you're going to go to the pageant, go to the 100-year anniversary. You can tell everybody, yes, I was there on the 100th. On Wednesday, last night we had, not Wednesday, Monday night we had at the Hemet Historic Theater a visit from Helen Hunt Jackson. And so she was talking to us, and it was really good. It was a history on the pageant itself. Victor Jory, who was Alessandro for many years, and then we had him directing quite a few of those years.
Sorry, time's up.
Yeah. You wanted it. Thank you.
Oh, my God. That was. Oh, boy. I get them confused here. Tim Nicholas, Tom Lodge?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I was here several times, but about 8 weeks ago, we were talking about lights in Sierra Dawn. I got a call the next day from Curtis, I believe, and he told me that he has a contractor getting a bid, going to submit it before the council. What's going on with that? Nobody's said anything since then. We still have half of our lights out. I know it's the oldest part of the city. I know it's the oldest system they have. Still, it's a senior community. We got to have lights. And it's just common sense. My other item is that I understand that Gatekeepers has left us. So I'm hoping that whoever, was it Ninth Night that is coming in, that got their contracts? I'm hoping that the Hemet PD can work better with them than they did with Gatekeepers, because there seemed to be a conflict between the two of them. And I hope all those issues could be resolved, because we have them in Sierra Dawn also. And there was some issues going on with officers theoretically not following through on break-ins and whatnot. And we still have people going to the hospital or passing away, and their houses are just getting trashed by the homeless. Because of all the walkways that are in Sierra Dawn, you can get through it from any street. With the added security is going to help. I'm going to talk to the board at Sierra Dawn, and hopefully they will get on board with the idea of having them register people who are going to be gone or past neighbors getting into it. But I'm just hoping that Hemet PD can get in with them with the new security so we can get that taken care of. But lights are my big issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody have anything on lights? I think that's it. What's, I can't. Oh, I'm so sorry. City Clerk, were there any electronic comments submitted to the?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call out to the Zoom callers. If there's anyone on the Zoom call, now is the time to raise your hand for public comment, and we'll give you just a few moments. Seeing none, Mayor, there's no registered public comment.
We will now move to presentations. Which one? Who's going
Or-
first? Oh, she's gonna go first, or you're gonna go first?
Before Councilmember Peterson reads off the proclamation, I wanted to say a few words. So today, this is for the entire month, but for today, we gather and honor and celebrate Women's History Month, because all of us in here came from a woman. And I'd like to define a woman as someone who can bear children without the aid of scientific intervention. So it's a time to reflect on the incredible achievements of women throughout history and their extraordinary contributions to our world. It is a time to be inspired by the resilience, strength, and vision of the women who came before us, paving the way for future generations to thrive. From the earliest moments of human history, women have been agents of change, pushing boundaries and breaking down barriers, and they have defied societal expectations, stood up against injustice, and fought for the rights and opportunities they knew they deserved. These trailblazers have shown us with determination, courage, and perseverance that there is no limit to what they can accomplish. Let us remember the women who have shattered glass ceilings in every field, from science to politics, from sports to the arts. You think about Marie Curie, who not only became the first woman to win the Nobel prize, but also remains the only person to have won in 2 different scientific fields. Amelia Earhart, who soared through the skies and broke countless records, inspiring generations of women to dream big and reach for the stars. We must honor the suffragettes, those brave women who fought tirelessly for the right to vote and for political equality. Women like Susan B. Anthony and Pankhurst, who knew that their struggle would not just benefit them, but countless women for generations to come. Their legacy can be felt today as we see women taking on leadership roles in governments and organizations around the world. Moreover, let us not forget the heroines who have led the charge for social justice and equality. Women like Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat on a bus, sparking a movement that would change the course of history, or Malala, the youngest Nobel laureate, who has shown the world that education is a powerful tool to empower and uplift women and girls. As we reflect on the past, it is essential to recognize the importance of intersectionality, ensuring that we celebrate and uplift women of all backgrounds, races, religions, and abilities. Our collective strength lies in our diversity, and we must always strive for a world where every woman's voice is heard and valued. This Women's History Month, let us not only honor the achievements of the remarkable women who have come before us, but also remember that the future is bright and full of opportunity. So we must continue to lift each other up, supporting and empowering one another in our pursuits and our dreams. The collective progress of women is a testament to the power of unity, resilience, and hope. Let us stand together hand in hand, celebrating the incredible legacy of women's achievements and the limitless potential that lies ahead. For when we empower women, we empower humanity. Happy Women's Month.
May I have Joan Covey and Lois Beckman, please, and other members of the Ladies Club? Hello, ladies. Good to see you. The City of Hemet, California Proclamation, Women's History Month. Whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in our country, our state, and our community by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside the home. Women throughout history have also played a unique role by providing a majority of the volunteer labor force of our country. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas the first Women's Day took place on February 28th, 1909 in New York City as a national observance organized by the Socialist Party. It honored the 1-year anniversary of the garment workers' strike in New York when thousands of women marched for economic rights through Lower Manhattan to Union Square. And whereas the City of Hemet is proud to honor the history and contributions of American women in our community and throughout our state and our nation. Therefore, Mayor Joel Males and members of the City Council of the City of Hemet do recognize and hereby proclaim March 2023 as Women's History Month. I encourage all residents to participate in events to commemorate and honor women and the history of their contributions to our community and nation. Presented March 14th, 2023. Thank you, ladies.
Oh, you need the name?
Can I have Lois Beckman come forth? Who loves the American Red Cross? Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of neighbors who aid families in need every day in Hemet, across the United States and around the world. Their dedication touches millions of lives each year as they carry out the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. During trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, people have stepped up to help others in need, whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking disasters across the country or rolling up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. Here in Hemet, local families have relied on the Red Cross volunteers for comfort and hope while coping with home fires, wildfires, and other disasters. Last year, volunteers responded to hundreds of local emergencies, providing urgent needs like food, lodging, and recovery support to those affected by these disasters. Red Cross volunteers have supported local families in other ways too, assisting service members and their families, providing free smoke alarms and vital fire safety information to community members to help prevent home fires, deaths, and injuries. Offering life-saving CPR and safety training, and so much more. This life-saving work is vital to strengthening our community's resilience. Nearly 200 years since the birth of the American Red Cross founder, Clara Barton, we dedicate this month, the month of March, to all those who continue to advance her noble legacy, and we ask others to join in their commitment to care for people in need. Therefore, Joe Males, Mayor of Hemet, along with the Hemet City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as American Red Cross Month, and we encourage all Americans to reach out and support its humanitarian mission.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when they were talking about Women's Month, I was thinking, well, you know, we were founded by Clara Barton, and we couldn't be more proud of that. A woman has really made a difference in our country. I want to thank all of you. I mean, last September, we were here with shelters open during the wildfires, and no organization can do it alone. And the fire department, police department, the city, so many people came in to help the citizens that were evacuated from their homes. So I really thank you. What a generous community you have here in Hemet. So thank you for this honor. I appreciate it.
Well, every quarter, we at the American Legion have the Red Cross there, and we accept donations, blood donations. So when's our next Red Cross? You don't know? And I was raised in the Women's Club from 4 years old till 9 or 10. You want to come and pinch my cheeks? Now that's all I got every time I went. Oh, my mother was a president for like 10 or 15 years, for a long time, and my neighbor was a vice president of the Women's Club. So it was daily. All right, we ready? Next, we will move on to receive and file. Are there any questions regarding the City of Hemet warrant registers or the investment report? No.
The investment report, do you mean the financial audit, the annual audit? Because I have a couple of questions on that.
Go ahead.
Okey doke. Just kind of a clarifying question. I I actually got through most all of it. The letter accompanying the financial audit from the auditor does not reflect the old standard statement of qualified, unqualified, modified, or unmodified. And I'm just wondering if either you or the auditor could come up and explain what is the difference in semantics coming out in auditors' letters these days?
Before I introduce our partner, Brent Van Lant from DLF, the audit letter, the opinion letters changed significantly over the years. Back when I was doing them, it did say unqualified, but during the course of the year and during changes through GASB and GAP, the letter has changed. In the staff report, we do say unmodified opinion. It still means the same. However, you're not going to find that term in the letter. However, I think at this point, to make sure we get it right, I'm going to introduce Brett Van Lant to make sure we slam dunk this one.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Brett Van Lant, partner with Van Lant and Finkennel. Your question regarding the audit report, I don't believe it's ever really said unmodified opinion. The term changed probably, within the last 10 years from unqualified to unmodified. But the reference to unmodified is just the statement that your financial statements present fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles means it's an unmodified opinion. If there were a qualification, they would say except for or something in regards to that manner and go into detail as to what that qualification is. So I hope that answers your question.
So basically, staff is doing a good job.
The financial, yes, correct.
That was all. I just wanted to make sure that was out because I read this and went, some of us are from the old school and we tag on to certain phrases that auditors come out with, and I didn't see that verbatim. So it was like, thank you very much. I appreciate the explanation.
Very well.
Else? Malcolm? No? I'd like to go forward with, I can't even talk, with the receive and file the reports then. Is that good? Oh. And lost again. Going to move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items will be acted upon simultaneously unless requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Are there any members of the council that would like to pull any consent items for separate consideration?
Yes. And I'm trying to find all of them. I would like to pull 12E, F, and G.
Any other council members want to pull a consent item?
I'll move approval of the rest.
Can I get a motion to approve the remainder of the consent items? And a second, please.
I make a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Council, please cast your votes. That's a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal to approve the consent calendar with the removals of item 12E, F, and G for separate consideration. Just missing Mayor Pro Tem's vote. That motion passes 4-0.
Would you like to? speak?
Yes, I would. I know it.
Hello.
I would just like a little bit more explanation of really what this does and what it actually means when we contract with another organization to do things. So if you can just give a brief overview, because I know a lot of people don't necessarily read all the things in the staff reports. And I did get a couple addendums this afternoon, and just like to be, what is it that Liberty does for us?
Liberty has all their own trucks, dump trailers, and a good crew that goes out and they do a lot of the pickup and cleanup of the right of ways. They pick up mattresses, all sorts of things. They log it really well. They create tasks. They do a lot of documentation for us. Our street supervisor that oversees that work is very happy with them, and it's a huge asset with our reduced crews, our city level, to have them on our side and out there helping pick up trash and clean up.
So is this also connected to the Public Works internship program or whatever that we had talked about with ARPA funding, or is this in addition to that?
This is in addition to that. This is completely separate. We do have some part-time maintenance aides that we've hired through the ARPA program. And so they're actually working with actual city staff. So it's not, there's no separation there.
Okay. And the reason we're increasing the amount is that they have a lot more work to do.
There's a lot of work to do. Yes.
But they're doing the work that a couple years ago, we had a contract with somebody that would go around and pick up all the dumped mattresses that were in town. So this organization is doing
And it's
that
not
now.
limited to mattresses. It's
Okay,
anything
these-
and everything.
Clean everything, and what do they do with it?
They bring it to our yard so that it can get picked up by CR&R.
Alrighty. I don't have a problem with it. I just, wanted, because it's a good program. And I assume it's helping the people that work through Liberty's Men's, whatever, Restoration Ministries.
We're
So
very happy with the program.
It's a
Yes.
good partnership, and it is something that I believe the city needs to do and should be doing. And I thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
And I would move approval.
Second.
Council, please cast your votes. And I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. That motion passes 4-0.
Okey-doke. And on to the next one. The only question I had on this, and I did get it, but I don't know if you can show it here. I was real concerned about what was considered the parking lot at Simpson Park or at Simpson, yeah, Simpson Park.
Gibson Center. Yeah.
That's a whole different program. Okay, at the Simpson Center. And what my additional question on that is, what is excluding the additive bid items? Two questions.
Okay, so the parking lot, starts with the driveway on Devonshire coming into the center. And it's the entire center all the way to the fence, which would be PD, fire over there. And there's everything to, okay, there's a driveway that goes from Harvard back to the fire station. And so that's the other boundary on the south. And then Carmelita Street is kind of the other boundary on the west side. So the part that's the additive bid is the actual was the cement drive from Harvard Street into Fire Station 1.
So if we aren't doing that, is the entrance then off Devonshire? Is it just going to be asphalt? Because fire trucks come in that direction also, as does PD.
It's all going to remain asphalt.
Going to be remain just the way it is. Okay.
But new
Yeah, new, but
and ADA compliant.
oh, that's right. That goes in there
The
too,
major
doesn't it?
part of this
Right.
project is bringing the whole parking lot up to compliance. in
Okay.
ADA.
Alrighty, I just,
I have a question though, before
Okay.
you ask for a vote. The Simpson Center,
Yes.
when is the Simpson Center going to be open? Where are we at with that? I know you're putting a parking lot in there, but is it Simpson Center ready to be open?
There's still some improvements that are needed inside and really outside the building to freshen it up before we can really start bringing people in to start running programs there.
Okay. We have like a.
There will be, I'm sure, projects coming to the council for approval to make those freshen up
major
improvements.
projects or?
Mostly cosmetic stuff, but there's a significant amount that needs to be done in that building before it's ready for someone to come and occupy it.
Are we looking at this year for it to be open next year? Or when?
I would hope this year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd make a motion to approve.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Councilmember Peterson. That motion passes 4-0.
And on 12G, appreciate that we're doing this and that there were actual maps. Oh, that was what I wanted to say on the other one, the one before in Simpson Center. I need maps. Larissa and I used to go through that all the time. It's like, give me a street corner and give me a map, and then we're good. Some of these streets that we're on that are going for slurry aren't necessarily the worst streets in town.
Absolutely not. They're more of the better streets, so we can
And
keep
I
them
see
that
you're
way.
Prepared to show me why.
Yes.
Okay, show us why.
All right, let me get started. The discussion topics that I'm going to cover on this item is the CIP 5748, which is a slurry seal preventative maintenance project. And I'm also going to preview the city's pavement management program update, a current overview of the city street conditions, and provide some future topics of discussion in regard to improving the condition of the city streets. The slurry seal project before you consists of streets located in 7 areas throughout the city, totaling over 1.6 million square feet. The work includes an estimated 13,500 linear feet of crack repairs that are too large to be slurry sealed. The slurry seal itself can take care of up to 1/4 inch cracks, but there were some larger ones that we have to repair before we slurry seal. There's also 25,000 square feet of patch repairs, mainly from utility patches that are going to be addressed prior to the slurry seal as well. These are just some reasonable amounts of repair needed to get the areas up to the condition level that the slurry seal will be an effective preventative maintenance treatment. Here's some maps of the 7 areas. It's kind of a compilation of all the streets to be slurry sealed, along with the approximate pavement area for each of the 7 areas. Just going to note that the section of Dominigoni Parkway from the city boundary to Searle Parkway is a little more than 1/3 of the total project area. And it is planned that the remaining section from Searle Parkway to State Street would be slurry sealed next year. All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Now I'm going to talk about the update that's in process for the city's pavement management program. All of the city street segments were surveyed over the past summer by the high-tech vans you see pictured on the right there. They collected data to analyze and grade the streets for these types of pavement distresses that are listed there, all 10. Once the data was collected, it was reviewed very carefully to assign each street segment a pavement condition index, or a PCI score, based on the distresses types, quantities, and severity that was recorded. Each street segment is compiled with other attributes such as the function class, GIS location properties and dimensions, which is formatted for loading into a software package. The data for Hemet's been loaded into our Cartograph asset management software, and the city's consultant, HR Green, is currently producing a pavement management program update report that will offer a more detailed insight into the current pavement conditions and what efforts will be needed to improve the conditions to acceptable levels. This is a summary of the pavement condition data that I can share with you this evening. The bar chart shows the percentage of city streets by area for each condition group, ranging from very poor to excellent. The network average PCI rating is a 52 and illustrates a 47.5% backlog, which is the percentage of area falling in the poor or very poor condition range. The target average network condition rating should be at least a 70. So generally speaking, preventative maintenance should be conducted on all pavement in good or excellent condition to extend the life of that good pavement, as we are doing with the slurry seal project. Everything in the poor and very poor range needs some kind of significant rehabilitation or full replacement, while marginal and fair needs some more minor rehabilitation work. All right, this chart on this slide shows the pavement areas percentages that fall into each of the functional classifications. Local, known as the residential streets, make up the largest area at 61.3%, followed by collectors at 24.8% and arterials at 13.9%. The average PCI score for local roads is 55, collectors are at 42, and arterials are at 51. The network data shows approximately 259 centerline miles of city streets. I'm going to emphasize approximately because I've seen some variations on that total across a couple sources. But this is the total that came from the pavement survey that was done over the summer. The overall network average pavement width is 35 feet, and the total pavement area in the city is approximately 48 million square feet. All right, to provide some perspective, I put down some rough cost estimates over with the little disclaimer at the bottom that these numbers are always changing and for our discussion purposes tonight only. Using the average network pavement width of 35 feet and a mile of length, that area calculates to be just under 185,000 square feet. So for that area, the estimated cost for preventative maintenance is $116,000. The estimated cost for a 2-inch grind and overlay rehab on this area is $496,000. And while there are more variables involved when it comes to full replacement, I've given a range of between 1.1 million and 1.6 million for the same area for replacement. And also note that on the replacement, that does not include any concrete replacements like curb and gutter, cross gutters, anything like that. All right, here we have a typical pavement degradation curve. You can see there's a critical point there at the 75% of pavement life in which the quality has dropped 40%. But if it's not maintained to keep it above the fair condition, it will drop another 40% of quality much quicker in just 12% of its life. This is where deferring maintenance or creating a backlog gets much more costly in the long term. As I showed with my rough cost estimate in the previous slide, the rehab treatment and reconstruction costs are magnitudes higher than the preventative treatments. This is kind of a preview for a more detailed discussion when we have the final pavement management program update report, which is expected to be done in the next month. And this is an ideal modification to the typical degradation curve with the proper preventative maintenance that extends out that curve in the higher quality range. This is why it's important to spend money on slurry seals to prolong the life of the streets that are in good condition rather than spending all the money on the streets in the worst condition. All right, getting back to the recommended actions for this evening. Staff's recommending awarding American Asphalt South the construction agreement for the fiscal year 22-23 citywide slurry seal project. Waive any minor bid irregularities. Authorize the city manager to approve additional construction expenditures not to exceed 10%. Authorize the finance director to transfer $221,923 of Measure A funds from the holding account to the project account. Authorize the city clerk to record the notice of completion upon acceptance of the work by the city engineer. And the last bullet there is not really for action tonight, but to conduct further discussion in regard to improving the city streets when the detailed pavement management program update report is available. Awarding the recommended slurry seal project and future decisions related to the city pavement management program supports the strategic plan goals of quality of life, partnership and collaboration, and organizational effectiveness. That concludes my presentation. I'll hand it back over to you, Mayor.
Real quick question on this. You had this vehicle driving through the streets of Hemet. Did they go down every street and every location in the old part of Hemet? And what's the radius of that device? How much can it measure as it drives through a road? I mean, is it just where the van's driving over, or does it have expanded radius?
It has cameras and lasers that reach the very edges of the right of way.
Up to, okay.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at this overall map and it's just like, for what we're paying for, it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot for the money, you know, it just doesn't seem right.
I'll explain.
Wow. Yeah.
I do have
Why
one,
are we doing a third of
if I could ask Kim one question.
Yeah.
If you can go back to the slide that has the percentage of local streets, collectors and arterials.
My clicker's not.
That one, with that one, yes. Could you explain the difference between which streets are collectors and which streets are arterials?
Arterials are the biggest ones. The up to 6 lane.
Dominagoni.
McDomingy, Sanderson. I think of what other ones. Those are the main, 2 of the main ones. And then collectors would be Acacia,
I guess it is, isn't it?
Devonshire, State on part of it.
Is Warren considered a collector or
It's
an
supposed to be an
arterial?
arterial, but it's not going to be probably built to
It's
that.
not going to be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We won't go into that one. Okay. Answered all my questions.
I just like to make one comment. I know that the city streets is one of the top priorities for our citizens. And I think it's really important that we get this information out to them, because they don't realize when you're trying to prevent more deterioration that you're doing preventive maintenance so it doesn't get to that critical stage. And people don't realize that because they say, my street is terrible. Why are they doing this one? I think we really need to give that more publication so everybody understands it and they can tell their neighbors what's going on and all that, because it's a huge topic in the city and they want to know why their street isn't getting repaired when it's worse than another one.
Agree.
And I have one more question or comment. I had not realized that the difference and the importance of cold patch and hot patches. And there was a communication thread on one of the social media things about a huge pothole. And I believe they said it was on North Sanderson up by Cottonwood or something. And that how many cars had fallen into it, et cetera, you know, that type of thing. And it is serious. I play dodgem darts or dodgem potholes all the time going around town. But the comment had been from a gentleman that he had been out there, it had been repaired, and he was happy to say it was a hot patch, not a cold patch. And the discussion went forward in that cold patch it's great at the beginning, and then it kind of starts sinking and whatever, and that a hot patch is really the best and that it will last longer. So thank you and congratulations on going back to hot patches there.
Thank you.
And I got all that because I forgot to say it in a meeting. So, yeah. With that, city manager wants to talk.
Want to be recognized by the mayor first. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to emphasize a couple of points here. This is a really important report, and Mr. Rao, if you don't mind dropping back to the bar chart where we show the different colors. The city, unfortunately, was in a position where it was unable to invest properly in our street maintenance coming out of the recession about 10 years ago. We know that was a time of financial distress for a number of cities, but as a result, the lack of investment at that time has contributed to a decline in the condition of our streets. And what you see in red and dark red here are extremely expensive repair jobs for the city. We have a challenge that's I want to put this in perspective, it's tens of millions of dollars. And what we want to do is stretch our taxpayer dollar as much as possible, which means our goal is to move these numbers from 52 to 70 so that in the future, we're spending 1/10 or 1/15 the dollar amount in the future and able to provide and use those savings to provide enhanced services for our community. So when the Public Works Director, City Engineer talks about a future conversation, what we're anticipating is working with you to prepare a study session and get into more finer details of this conversation and talking to you about ways that we can potentially accelerate the investment in our streets and prevent that large bar in the 25 to 40 range here from transitioning to the very poor. That's going to be a complete rebuild. And so we have a near-term challenge as a community to prevent that large bar from moving into the very poor category and moving it back into, with proper treatment, it's going to move into the dark green when we make proper investments. So this is a near-term challenge. I know that we'll be able to identify some options on how we begin to move the needle, but this is such an important chart. And Councilmember Peterson is correct. This is counterintuitive. Spending money on the good streets today is going to save us an enormous amount of money later. But we also need to have strategies to address these challenging streets, which we're all tired of navigating potholes. So that's our challenge. We're coming forward. We'll be coming forward in probably within 4 to 6 weeks for a special meeting on this topic, and looking forward to that conversation. Thank you.
Very good. If there are no other questions or comments, I will move approval of this item.
I will second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, a second by Councilmember Peterson. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 4-0.
Well, good. Okay, next we'll move into our first discussion item. May we have a report from staff, please?
All right, this item is a joint community facilities agreement between the city, Hemet Unified School District, and Lennar Homes. The JCFA is related to Tract 35393, which is being developed by Lennar Homes and is shown in the blue there on the map. It is located west of Fisher Street, south of Mustang Way, and north of Poplar Street. The development consists of 145 single-family residential units. The Melrose Act of 1982 assists public agencies in financing public services and improvements. Lennar Homes has requested the Hemet Unified School District to assist them in forming a Community Facilities District, or CFD, to fund development impact fees and public improvements that would be accepted and maintained by the city. The city does have the same ability to form the CFDs as Hemet Unified School District, but there are administrative advantages to utilizing a JCFA and allowing Hemet Unified School District to be the lead agency responsible. With the JCFA, Hemet Unified School District assumes all responsibility for the issuance and payment of the municipal bonds and placing the annual assessments of special taxes on the property tax roll. So it's staff's recommendation that City Council adopt a resolution authorizing Hemet Unified School District to form a CFD within the boundaries of Hemet to finance certain development impact fees and capital improvements associated with Track Map 35393 through a joint community facilities agreement. Approval of the JCFA supports the city's strategic plan goals for quality of life, partnership and collaboration, and organizational effectiveness. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions or discussion?
Any council members? Thank you for your presentation. Are there any comments? No, we got no comments. So can I get a motion?
Well,
And a
I'm
second.
just assuming this is what we have done in the past with developers,
Yes.
that we started doing just a few years ago, and it's very beneficial. Okay. I'm good.
Can I get a motion and a second?
I will move staff approval. Staff recommendation, excuse me, we approve, they recommend. Is that okay?
Can I? City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
I didn't hear a second.
Oh, I thought we had.
Second.
Malcolm.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lilienthal. That motion passes 4-0.
Next, we'll move to 13B. Hey, we have our, not, may we have a receive a report from the staff on this item, please? I can't even talk.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Scott Underwood, your IT department, and we also have Tom Jacobson from Client First. We'll be presenting this tonight. Let's see. So your strategic plan integration is organizational effectiveness on this. Proposed action aligns with council adopted strategic plan. Action item, evaluate the IT function and future needs. So what, why, and where are we doing this? So we have 2 server and storage units, one at our police department, one at City Hall. These units have been running 24/7, 365. One of those units is at City Hall is 11 years old. So imagine your car, and this is an analogy from Gus Chavez, one of our IT guys in the back room there. Imagine running a car and starting a car from the car dealership and just running that car continuous for 11 years. These items aren't like a police truck or a police car, excuse me, not a police truck, or a fire truck where there's intermittent turn on and turn off. These things are running 24/7, 365. There's always demand placed on them. So they're some of the hardest working pieces of equipment that we have. Again, the life expectancy of both of these, and we'll kind of go over the police department one as well. That one is 7 years old. The life expectancy of this type of equipment that's on 24/7, 365 and continuously running is 5 years. Can eke out 7 years. When we go beyond the 5-year, what we wind up having is problems with getting equipment availability. While we can, over the 5 years, get good, quality, actual new replacement items. Once we start going into the 7 or 6 year area, we start seeing refurbished equipment. So, and then we also start seeing some issues with even trying to find that equipment. There's a lot of other companies that try to eke out the same amount of time to, like I said, 5 years is great. But finances kind of dictate that sometimes we don't have that option, that we have to extend it. Of course, with the City Hall server storage system, that's the foundation for everything that's non-law enforcement. So that's going to be everything through finance to fire, public works included, all of them. With the police department storage system, that's going to be the foundation for our law enforcement. That system, again, was the one that's been bought the most recent. Due to some of the issues with the older environment at City Hall, we weren't able to utilize that environment to put up new systems such as our new CAD system, some of the integrations that we needed with Microsoft 365. That older environment just wasn't compatible. So we had to carve off a piece of that system at the police department and use it. It's not the preferred method, but that's the method we had to do, just in trying to utilize this equipment to its fullest capacity. Some of the newest things, or some of the things that we would like to do once we've seen and kind of reviewed this, is obviously we'll want new systems. That new system is making sure that the city operations that are running on these 11 and 7-year-old systems can continue to operate without impacts, without delays, or without outage. When it comes to some of our police department, fire department, public safety things, outages just don't work. We can't really operate with those. And then there's other portions of the systems too, when it comes to, water operations and things like that, that sometimes we don't think about, but yet it's really important to be able to turn on your faucet. While those systems, there's other systems that do provide some of that technology. A lot of the connectivity needed for the guys out in the field to be able to monitor and maintain that system, that's required to have the City Hall system and police department system up. And the other portion of this also is, when it comes to restoration of some of our services. With the restoration that we currently have, we're looking at the worst case scenario of being without systems for 45 days. That's just not something that we can do, especially when it comes to public safety. So what we're looking to do in this project, or we're looking as far as replacement gear, is to limit that, to run that down to 72 hours. And you'll see that number brought up again in the presentation here. 72 hours is kind of a new maximum that our cyber insurance services want to see. They don't want anything to be down longer than that. So that's kind of in a gist what we're looking at. So what we did is, obviously, in looking at kind of what we wanted to do and everything else, we looked at a vendor that could help us, because after about 11 years, technology has changed so much that we need to have somebody else kind of dive in and make sure that we're doing the right thing. A second set of eyes never hurts. So what we did is, rather than go stomping off to HP or Dell or whoever we had, we brought in an outside vendor, an agnostic consultant that could take a peek at this and not try to push us towards one product or another, but to look at what we truly needed and, kind of develop that RFP, that request for proposal. So when we did that, we consulted or contacted 4 different firms. All the firms responded with proposals. We met with the top 2 in person, and based on those conversations, we selected Client First Technologies for that review of our system and creation of that RFP and proposals. And from here on out, I'm going to go ahead and have you listen to our consultant, Tom, and from Client First, and he'll introduce you to what his firm does.
You left me your presentation. I'm Tom Jacobson. I'm a partner with Client First Technology Consulting. This is the second project we worked with you folks on. The first one was firewall RFP and replacement about a year and a half ago. We've got one more in the works that we've been selected to help you with, which is actually library network equipment. We work with local governments around the country. We're vendor independent. We don't have any relationships with any manufacturers. I've been in the IT business for 40 plus years and in local government consulting for 25 years. We were hired in October. It took us until March of last year to assemble the RFP. This RFP requires a lot of detailed technical digging because we're really looking at the capacity of two major systems and we're trying to forecast out the necessary capacity for the next 5 to 7 years. We recommended that the city use a system called Hyperconverged. I'll explain that in a second. I've got a better slide next that's actually draws a picture rather than all these words. The way I'll describe it is when I started in IT, we used mainframes. Everything was on a mainframe. And then we went to servers and then we migrated back. And now 5 generations later, we're kind of back essentially on a mainframe, except it's multiple, fully redundant. In other words, it runs on its own. If any single part fails, it keeps going. It's actually has artificial intelligence self-healing involved in. So I can show you a little bit more about what that means on the next slide. I don't even have the mainframe piece on here, but traditional non-converged is to your left. Converged is actually what you had prior to this at police and city hall. And hyper-converged, as you can see, is much simpler. Just a network connection and server and disk and all that stuff is all put together. The benefits are easier to expand, much simpler to maintain. And when you've got limited staff, as you folks do, that's very important. We've got several clients using this particular product. They spend maybe a couple hours a month patching it and fixing it. It just works. We've had clients that are on their last iteration. They've had it 6 or 7 years, and the thing just really works well. All of them in the same environment as yours, 24/7, 365 for local governments, cities, those kinds of things. Okay, so that's what we went to. Then the other part we needed to work on were the city backups. One of the key kind of basic phrases of IT is you can never have too many backups. And that's really true in the age of malware and other virus issues. Scott mentioned malware a little bit. The city of Oakland was hit about 5 weeks ago. They were down fully for 2 weeks. They still do not have all their services up. I'm just going to talk about a couple here, couple that are public. The city of Azusa Police Department has been hit twice in 18 months. Both times they transferred police services to county for an extended period of time before they could rebuild their systems. So these backups are really important to you. The goal of the backup is to have multiple copies in multiple locations. At least one of them is something called immutable. And what immutable means, it's not attached to the network and you can't change it. So there's no way that a malware or something could get in there and actually corrupt it. Okay. What am I going to say next? So Scott showed you a picture of the current topology, Blade server and storage at PD, Blade server and storage at City Hall. All those green boxes will be replaced by something that looks much more like this, which is a single rack of equipment, a primary sites here at City Hall, serving both police and City Hall services, and then a cloud disaster recovery site. The purpose of the cloud disaster recovery site is what Scott mentioned before, that we could bring city services up within 72 hours of an outage.
whether that be loss of the computer room, a malware attack. We had a client this weekend who, believe it or not, the electrical cord that connects the server rack just melted over the weekend. You know, and whatever it happens to be. So the idea is the cloud disaster recovery is where your one copy of your backups lie, and you'll be able to bring the systems up within 72 hours. This is the part, one of the things I like the most about cloud services is cloud backup disaster recovery, because it allows staff, say you were to lose this building, people can work anywhere. They can work from home, they can work from the library, they can work from another building. I think it's really, really a great use of technology. So we wrote an RFP to procure the hyperconverged system. We received 6 proposals from 4 respondents. The issue we had with the proposals is the responses were not apples to apples. We could not truly compare them as you would a bid and say, here's the lowest vendor, here's the one we're going to go with. So after working with the vendors to get as close to apples as we could and reviewing the proposals with staff, we picked the 2 proposals that best met city needs, which were SHI Nutanix and Data On, and demonstrated those 2 systems to city staff and the consulting team, and reviewed requirements further. All the proposals lack backup software. One things we can do is back things up to hardware, but we need software to recover from. A product called Veeam was selected as the standard backup software for all sites. It's industry standard, used by more than 50% of local government agencies. And just so happens that Veeam and Nutanix have an integration agreement, so the systems are built for each other. We received 4 quotes for Veeam software across the board. Now, what I mean by across the board is for both the on-premise backup and the cloud backup, and integration of those 2 things so they can be run as a single backup platform. That's important to keep administration down, so staff aren't managing a local backup platform and a cloud backup platform separately. The staff report outlines the government contract used for the Veeam proposal in detail. We also discovered after the RFP that we didn't have enough fast network equipment ports in the data center. The switches, how old are the switches, Scott? The network switches are 15 years old. Those will be brought to you sometime soon. The life expectancy of network switches is actually 7 years also. So we had 4 10 gigabit connections, which is quite a bit for 15-year-old switches, and we needed 6. So given the fact that those switches are old, out of date, and obsolete, we solicited quotes for additional switches that actually connect all this equipment to the network and the individual PCs. And those quotes are listed there. And again, a government contract is being used to procure them. The SHI alternate was the selected vendor for city staff. I did some rough calculations to try to give you an idea of how much compute capacity the SHI solution has. It has, depending upon how you measure it, somewhere between the equivalent of 350 to 375 PCs. So the server system itself has more compute capacity than all the desktop systems and laptops at the city in one box. It's built for growth. It's built to last you 5 to 7 years. The selected maintenance contract is 5 years. Locking in a long-term maintenance contract is beneficial financially. You get a discount. And we've had a couple of clients that have recently received multiple hundreds % quote, price increases on their maintenance from this vendor after the expiration of their 5-year agreements. So that's a good thing. So we recommend procuring these pieces, server and storage hardware, which is Nutanix, SHI Nutanix, the original bid, local backup hardware. Again, we need local backups, cloud backups for cybersecurity reasons, which is a SHI Nutanix Mine product, which integrates with the Veeam product. Sorry about all the technical terms. You can ask me, I'll try to explain it to you again if you need me to. All integrates together. It all looks like, with the idea is to minimize the amount of work. Oh, I got to switch. Sorry. I'm just talking. And then network switch hardware. We talked about that. It's 15 years old. It connects everything together. And then here's a more detailed breakout of all the various piece parts and their various costs. The solution covers all police and city systems that were covered by the 2 systems before, both on-premise and providing cloud capabilities with 5-year maintenance, as we discussed. I didn't spend much time talking about cybersecurity requirements. We mentioned it briefly. Because I work in local government around the country, I probably every month or so, someone sends me their cybersecurity questionnaire and asks me to take a look at it. While we were working through this project, I received a cybersecurity questionnaire from one of the communities I work with a lot in the Bay Area. And they were told that unless they met these requirements by June 30th, they may not be able to get cybersecurity insurance this coming year. So I shared those requirements with staff, and staff verified that those requirements are indeed real. While they may not be enforced for you this year, they are certainly coming your way. So the goal of this one of the goals of the product became protect you against future cybersecurity insurance requirements so you can continue to maintain secure cybersecurity insurance. That concludes my presentation, and happy to describe any of this to you in any other way that might help you understand it better.
I'd like to start off if I can. Couple of things. I understand what you're talking about on the backup. You have to have a local one and an offsite one, and that's the best result if you lose data. So that's a given. On your in your server room, do you have dedicated power there, Scott?
Power, yes, we do. We have.
I'm sorry?
Power. We have power, regular AC power from Edison, as well as generator.
But do you have it just for the server room, or is it shared with the offices around?
Shared with the entire building.
And you should have dedicated in there just for the servers only. That way you don't end up with cables going out and burning up and so on. But on the servers that you're proposing, on the cores, are they quads, quad core, or what are they?
Total of 60 cores.
60 cores. Oh, wow. Okay, great. Then you're going to have virtual servers on them, V?
Yes, they're between City Hall and police. There are a total of 75 virtual servers.
Virtual servers, okay, 75.
I've got a couple more statistics if you're interested. 164 total terabytes of disk. Yes. And 3,072 gigabits of RAM. That's what I use to do the calculation to say how much compute power.
Also, the new switches that you're talking about there, I got out of the business in 2012, I think, and when I got out, we had gigabit switches. Did they go up any, or are we still?
These are 10, 25, 40, or 100 gigabit.
Okay. Now the cable that you run in the wall, is that Cat 5 or is that Cat 6A, or what do we have in the?
Now you can connect servers using a Cat 6A cable at 10 gigabits.
Right, but what do we have running in the wall right now?
I think that's a future project that's in the works now.
Yeah, definitely. What we have running in walls right now, as far as connectivity to switches and servers, fiber. So we're
Okay,
going
so
off
it's only
fiber.
gonna run 100 gig or 100 MB.
Well,
or-
it can run right now. It would be connectivity back to those switches that we currently have would be 10 gig.
Well,
And then we'd be moving that up to 40 or 100 when we complete the project that replaces the networking equipment. And that's part of the telephone system.
don't you have to replace all the cable on the walls to go to 6A or Cat 6?
No, those are direct. Those are direct. They drop down from the rack. They go over and it's a switch that's in the same room.
Well, I'm talking about desktop. So from
for
that
des-
server to the desktop, we're only gonna run at 100 MB.
Yeah, for the desktops,
Or 100,
those are
yeah.
all running on either 5E or 6.
Right.
And those are all right now a combination of either 10100 or 1000.
So to get the maximum out of this whole system, we should rerun our cables in the walls, though, is what I'm saying.
That's
Yes or
gonna,
no?
yeah, the part of that project is gonna be the telephone system, and what we're looking to do is just modify any cable that we currently have that's bad and replace that and bring that up to snuff.
Now, again, the price seems high. My son's a IT director at one of the biggest law firms in Century City. I thought they had 7, but they downsized during COVID to 5. And I told city manager they had 7. His budget now is $1 million a year for all his servers, all his equipment. And so what we're paying, what million? Yeah, it's really not that bad for after running all this equipment for 5 to 11 years. I mean, we have to pay at some point. I'm just saying the price sounds high, but it's in networking, it's not high. It's probably about average of what we're paying. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Can you go back to that previous slide? What is a node? Or does it say mode or node under networking?
Let me look. Kind of depends on the,
This is 250 gigabytes per something ODE.
oh, per node. Yeah, within the Nutanix system itself, there's like a cabinet, and the cabinet has several nodes in it. And the node is a collection, like a concentration point for, whoa. Sorry.
The AI?
Yeah, yeah, is at work. I don't know what's going on. Is a concentration point essentially in a rack, physical rack in the server compartment. Yeah, that's what a node is. And nodes are redundant, they fail over and that kind of thing.
So is it safe to say that you can take, is it in the rack? I'm thinking, like for a DJ rack, there's like, it has equalizers. Would that be equal to like each of those things, the nodes?
There's, it's actually the next layer down. It's actually physically in the box. Your equalizers, there's 3 of those essentially.
Yeah.
If we go back to the rack, and within that, there's 3 nodes in each of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have 2 of them that are at 250 gigabytes per.
Yeah. It says 25 gigabit. No, that's networking nodes. So 25 gigabytes. That's actually the network connections themselves. Yeah, they're 25 gigabytes. And what you're running today is 1 gigabit. So it's a multiple of 25 speed improvement.
Can you go back over the difference between what we have now, which is the Blade server?
Yeah.
And the this HCI?
Sure. So if you look at the Blade server,
Wait, hold on for a second. Would you say it's like going from the disk to SATA drive? Would you say it's like that?
Okay, let me explain it and then we'll see what the right analogy is. The disk is actually down below. So the blades, what all the blades hold is CPU and then network connections. Okay, in memory, right? So that's what's in a blade, and the blades plug in to this console thing, and they all go against a back plane. Then down below is the disc. And the disc is what we call like SATA or whatever, the disc, spinning disc, right? That's all 10, 14 years old. And those are separate things. And then they're connected by the network portion and the blade unit itself. Okay? And that's works the same way at City Hall and at police. Now,
This HCI system is gonna make it, it's gonna almost simplify it, going from that blade to this hyper component.
mhm. Yeah, it does. Because it consolidates everything into a single box. A single, every node, you know, in a single box. There's actually 3 of them. But they're all consolidated in that box, the memory, the CPU, and the disk is all in there.
Can you also talk about how just touch on like the resiliency features, okay? So it looks like HCI has, you talked about it having resiliency
Right.
built into it.
Yes.
Now, can you also talk about how it ensures the business, like our continuity?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways. One is if any single component fails, the system continues to run.
And then, because you said something about it kind of can heal itself.
Yes, it has some self-healing capabilities. In other words, if a disk fails, everything gets moved off of that disk automatically and reallocated across the rest of the disk automatically without Scott or anybody on his team having to touch it.
Is that when it kind of goes back in and rewrites the disk and then puts it back on?
Essentially rewrites the disks,
Okay.
organizes them automatically without anybody doing anything. Yeah, and then
Because with the bad spots on the disk, it keeps it from being able to write to that location afterwards, so.
that's important because
Self-redundancy.
in existing disk systems, if a disk fails, all the other disks start working harder and you're much more likely to have a second disk failure. By reallocating the disk, it continues to use everything about equally. And you're much less likely then to have a second failure that actually causes a catastrophic loss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more question on your backup now that you have, Scott, is it offsite or is it on-site?
Both. So we have on-site, and we also then take copies of that and move it over to a cloud storage location.
Oh,
that
good.
we
Oh,
have.
so you
Yeah, it's-
manually move it over to the cloud?
It's moved over weekly. And the idea behind this is that this system will allow it to go even further than that.
Right, this
Again, the
more
72
automated.
hours is kind of the max.
Yeah.
What we're going to be doing is working with all the different departments and try to discover and create an SLA, a service level agreement. So that way we know that if, the CAD system for the police department and fire department, that one probably can't survive 72 hours down. So we'll need to make sure that we have the relevant copies to bring that back up within maybe a half hour or 2 hours at the maximum. So there'll be different slider scales due to the nature of that environment. Like for finance, there's going to be issues with keeping things down too long just because you've got paychecks, you've got water bills, other things like that.
Now, do you do standard restore tests to make sure your backups are backing up properly?
We currently do, but not to the level that we need to be. And that's one of the reasons that. we're
When's the
going
last time you did that?
It's been about 6 months.
Oh, that's not good.
So, and that's one of the issues that
Yeah.
we have with older systems. And that's why we want to get this where we're having that done more often to test it, to make sure that we can recover from that, and even hit that magic red button where we can turn the system on and get it to recover and go into disaster recovery mode.
So right now, we're on borrowed time.
We technically are, yes.
Okay.
Difference between the current backup system and what we're recommending is the compute power is sitting there waiting to be turned on. That's the problem with your current backups. You've just got backups. You don't have a server waiting to actually start up. That's what's missing. In this environment, the compute power is just waiting to be turned on should you require to activate the backups. It's actually, I think it's really cool.
Do we have fiber at this time for our internet when it comes in?
We do.
We
We
do
have
have
fiber optic for City Hall and for PD all at 1 gig. We do also have a backup provider that's much less than that, but it comes over copper. So we're trying to balance the two between
So you do
the
have
cable system and
redundancy on your internet then?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
at both locations. And the only location that does not have redundancy but has fiber is the library for their public users, their patrons.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Linda wanted to hear that. Anyone else? No? Anyone? No, no. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Did want to mention one more thing. What we did is when we went through this, we didn't go just to one vendor. We also looked for those pieces of the pie that we needed to back up the network equipment, and we looked at other providers as well. And as you'll see through some of the staff report, if we went with one solid vendor, sometimes that vendor became the highest vendor quoted for network or for the recovery for the backup software. So trying to do that, we're trying to obviously reduce the amount of spend that we need.
Right.
Again, to what you mentioned, this is 1.16, but for 5 years. This is a 5-year system complete. So we're not going to have to go back and do that again. Obviously, we need to be better about replacement and not let things get to 11 years old.
Right.
But that, again, when that happened, that just was due to the finances of the city. We just had to make sure that we eked out of every last ounce of taxpayer dollar we could out of that.
Right. Well, I would recommend you get the additional 2 years for a complete 7. Get it while, at the beginning, so it's less.
It can be like we had mentioned before, 5 years is usually about where we see these things start to fail. We have hit
You have
7.
you have one server that's been running 11 years, so.
True. Well,
I mean-
and at the in the staff report, there's also a discussion of at the police department, that 7-year-old server, we already have hardware failure happening on that one too.
Yeah.
So, even if we could get to 7 years, sometimes it's just part availability. And because of what that operation does, it tends to not allow you to have much failure before they have a lot of problems with their service of the public.
Scott, are you able to talk about how you get the money into the technology fund?
Some of that I'll need to probably hit up finance about, but I know that with equipment that's this large, the finance department does move some money over in just appreciation for that equipment. So that's some of that. I know that some of the other monies that was talked about in the staff report, there was an additional $1 million. That $1 million was set aside in 2016 for specifically the ERP system, for the financial ERP replacement, enterprise resource planning. So while some of that is moved in there, that wasn't part of that depreciated cost. That was part of monies that were kind of cobbled together by the staff at that time to start that fund for that ERP replacement.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Can I get a motion?
This is a big motion. There's a lot in this one. I move that the city council approve the server and storage replacement by executing agreements with She International and approve and that we move the money to approve the required dollars for this system, I'll say.
Can I get a second? Okay. Can we get a vote, please?
Council, please cast your votes. And I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, was 13C, I believe.
Yeah.
May we receive a staff report on this item, please?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Ryan Webb, Deputy Fire Chief, on behalf of Chief Sell, who had to step out and he wanted to extend his apologies. In order to address this issue and provide some more context, I wanted to introduce our acting building official, Carlos Yado.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Carlos Yado. I'm the acting building official for the City of Hemet. And tonight we are bringing before you a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hemet, approving a third amendment in the amount of $484,642.48 to the agreement between Wildan Engineering and the City of Hemet for a total amount not to exceed $950,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement, and authorizing the finance director to record a supplemental appropriation and revenue estimate increase to the 2022-2023 fiscal year adopted budget in the amount of $484,642.48. A little bit of background and previous council action items. The City of Hemet contracts with Wildan to provide building inspection, plan check, and permit services. On September 8th of 2022, we entered an agreement with Wildan Engineering for $50,000. On September 27th, 2022, we did our first amendment for a contract amount not to exceed $200,000. A couple of weeks ago, we came back for a second amendment that would get us current to the end of through January 2023 with our invoices, and had an amount approved not to exceed $465,357.52. And at that same meeting, we did mention that there was a forthcoming amendment to get us projected to the end of the fiscal year for those services. Some discussion on this item. The Building and Safety Division requires inspections, permit tech, and plan check services for submitted applications that come to our office every single day. There's been an increase in building and construction. And so Building and Safety is recommending the third amendment to be able to continue these services through the end of the fiscal year. The current contract will then for the amount not to exceed $465,357.52 would need to be increased by an additional $484,642.48 for an updated not to exceed amount of $950,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year for 2022-2023. Overall, based on updated building revenue projections when compared to the original budget expenditures, the cost for the third amendment with Wildan will be more than enough to offset the revenue increase. We also included in the new agreement that the Wildan Engineering would provide an 80% notification. So as they drew closer to 80% of the contract amount, they would notify the city in writing. That way we would be able to evaluate their services and make sure that we have enough funds in there to take care of those invoices. When we dive into our analysis, this time last year, the adopted budget for 2022-23 for building and planning staff, they were very conservative in their estimations for a revenue of $1.4 million. And through the end of January 2023, we saw significant construction and building activity. And so it had surpassed the original revenue forecast for this year, and we're projected to end the year at 2.6 million just for building permit revenue. And in the staff report, you'll see a table that kind of outlines what was projected for building plan check revenue, what was projected for permit revenue, and our actuals, what we're estimating our actuals to be, which has an increase between both of them of $1.2 million from our original forecasted revenue from last year.
This ties into our strategic plan through goal number 2 for economic opportunity. Just being able to provide adequate resources to ensure that we have the highest level of customer services that we're providing to our community and looking at streamlining processes for our business community. And it also integrates with goal number 5, just for organizational effectiveness, just to streamline our fire prevention coordinated efforts and operate in a fiscally responsible manner. The fiscal impact for this, adopting this resolution and approving the third amendment in the amount of $484,642.48 for the agreement of services between the City of Hemet and Wildan Engineering for an amount not to exceed $950,000 would entail a supplemental appropriation to the Building Division Contract Inspection Plan Check Services budget in the amount of $484,642.48, and a revenue estimate increase in building permits in the amount of $390,000, $357.48, and an increase in the building plan check revenue account of $94,285. So our recommended action for City Council is to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hemet, approving the third amendment in the amount of $484,642.48 to the agreement for services between the City of Hemet and Wildan Engineering for a total contract amount not to exceed $950,000 per fiscal year, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement, and authorizing the finance director to record a supplemental appropriation and revenue estimate increase to fiscal year 2022-2023 adopted budget in the amount of $484,642.48. That concludes my presentation. I'm open for discussion or questions.
Any questions?
So within the building permits and building plan checks, funding accounts, staff is anticipating the building revenues in those categories to exceed what was previously projected at about 1.2 million.
That is correct. Based on just a very conservative number that they went with in these revenue estimates that they forecasted for this year, we've already exceeded those, and our actual is for building permits is the proposed or the adopted was 1.1, whereas the actual we're forecasting is 2.1 just for building permit, and then the same thing for plan check revenue was 294, which is what this time last year they were estimating, and we're forecasting 539,000 for building plan check revenue.
And those are the same accounts that would pay for this additional money that you need.
That is correct.
So did you guys think of any anticipated challenges with this new amendment? Like what if how will they let us know? Is that through where it talks about they're gonna, hold on,
the 80%?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so staff worked with our management analysts to really crunch down all of these numbers. So I'm pretty confident that we have a solid number, just given the fact that we are filling recruitments, we're filling vacancies. So that might drive this number down a little bit of what we would need based on filling those vacancies, and then plus the salary savings we have. But that's why we went and put the 80% rule, just in case if we need to come back, we're not overspending what we're technically allowed to do, approved by City Council.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the report, and I appreciate that explanation too. My question on this is, does this mean we're going to have an increase in people that are working increased hours so that I don't get angry phone calls from developers who can't get their inspections and their plan checks done? And I'd say that with a smile, because we know it happens all the time. So, I mean, is that going to help alleviate that? Because I know there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of building, there's a lot of activity going on.
So prior to executing the agreement with Wildan Engineering, we had several vacancies, which led to delays in processing plan reviews and getting inspections done. Since we brought on Wildan in September, their staff has been instrumental in ensuring that we're providing. I'll give you an example. Our building inspections are next day. They have not gone beyond next day. Our plan checks are 7 to 10 days. So they're hitting those timeframes that are outlined in their contract. So, you know, kudos to Wildan for being able to provide those services in a timely manner and offering that high level of customer service that the Department of Life Safety expects and our community expects. But I also monitor that as well and manage to make sure that we're meeting those deadlines and we're meeting those turnarounds. And so by filling vacancies and utilizing contract staff, we're able to ensure that we have the right resources to support the workload that is demanding from our business and our development community.
We're basically working on both sides of it. We're beefing up our in-house staff, but basically relying on the expertise of Wildan to give us people who are already trained and know what they're doing.
That is correct, until we backfill those vacancies that we have.
Okay, and if we suddenly, this is going to the future, if we suddenly got totally inundated with new development, because I hear there's a few people wanting to come here, would Wildan have enough staff available to help us get through that?
I would have to have a deeper dive with Wildan. I believe that in their initial conversations and in prior to or leading up to getting this contract back in September, they were able to support whatever additional resources. If we needed more help, they were able to provide that. So, you know, again, that's something that I'll continue and the chief will continue to monitor. And, you know, maybe that's an opportunity where we can open to other consultants that are able to provide that if they're not able to.
Thank you.
Just to ensure we have a full bench ready to go that can provide those resources.
All righty, thank you so much.
Anyone else? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any, can I get a motion, please, in a second?
I will move approval, staff's recommendation on this item.
I'll second it.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Councilmember Peterson. That motion passes 4-0.
Okay. That's it. All we need now is our city council and staff reports.
Only 9 o'clock. We can be here for another hour.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Would you like to start, Linda?
I will. Okay. Hammond Investment Oversight Committee, we will be scheduling a meeting in the next couple of weeks and getting that going again. The library, the trustees meeting is this Friday from 10 to 12. And let me find my thing here. Let's see, story time is at 2 p.m. tomorrow for kids and families, and the In and Out cover to cover reading challenges for children and family starts tomorrow. Okay. And it is, I just sent Kathy, I said, In and Out, is that just like the hamburger place? And she said, yeah, it is. So it's the hamburger chain. They read 5 books, earn a gift card. They will have 3 opportunities and then they max out. And the library will be tracking all of the reading book numbers per person on Beanstack. And it runs until April 15th. So I'm signed up for can I do that? But I'm signed up on Beanstack. Shucks. Okay, well, it's for the kids then. How is there an age limit on the children? No, okay, so just go on to Beanstack, sign up, and it's a good program through that, and then get into the in and out thing, reading challenge, and go from there. No, not that one. League of California Cities, we had our monthly general meeting last night in Cathedral City, outside at their new it's not natural, at their new amphitheater and on their green. And it was really kind of cool because we were warned that it was going to be outside. So I had 2 jackets in the car. I had a winter scarf. I had all of this stuff. And by the time I pulled in out there, it was 79 degrees. So needless to say, I just sat in my, a little turtleneck, and I was very, very warm until 8 o'clock when we left. It was still warm, but it was kind of nice not to be cold. Introduced our new city manager as the best in Riverside County, and he got cheers and applause. And I was going to say the newest one, but then one of the other cities just hired their city manager 2 weeks ago. So, you're not the newest one anymore. Had some discussion on the letter that we approved tonight in support of the city of Blythe and the prison out there. A lot of good constructive comments, and Riverside County cities basically voted to write letters in support of keeping that facility and closing Norco. So everybody was in agreement, and Norco and both cities are in agreement. So we will see where that one goes. Thursday and Friday this week, the policy committees are meeting virtually, and I am on the Transportation, Communication, and Public Works Policy Committee. So I will be virtually at that one on Friday. RCTC had a meeting a week ago. And the major thing that happened at that, which in many, many ways is disappointing, is that we officially suspended all work going forward on expanding the downtown Metrolink station in Riverside. And that was done for several reasons. One was there was a lot of public outcry about increased traffic and noise in the East Side community. Also, the Riverside School District, after we had started the EIR and the design and everything, decided they were going to build an elementary school right next to where the tracks and parking lot would be. And also the increased costs of acquiring some of the property and relocating a business that is in a historic building nearby. So while RCTC has spent some money on the CEQA process and environmental report studies and whatever, as of now, it is done, and it will not be re-upped at that location, although most of us are hoping that we can find another station that will have less objection and less harmful effects and whatever, and costs less to get it done, because there's other projects coming forward, and increased service to Riverside demands that we have increased storage and another line coming in there so that we can have every half hour instead of every 2 to 4 hours service from LA to Riverside. What else? Planning Commission. The Rallies project that was going forward and had been approved by Airport Land Use Commission, which is on the corner of Tanya and it's Sanderson, Tanya, and something else over there. They pulled their plans, mainly because there's a new property owner or a new owner of the franchise and the area, and they want to look at different access. And so that's going to be interesting when it does come back, because right now their access is approved from Tanya, not from Sanderson. And there was a very interesting conversation on a zone change that Planning Commission approved, and we'll come back to them as a project on North Girard at Park. And there, I'm sure, will be a lot of continuing conversations on that particular development when it comes in. And that, my friends, is all I have.
Councilmember Peterson.
I attended my first and last Western Community Energy meeting last week. WCE is the power company that went bankrupt and was not successful. And the city of Hemet had the option of opting into this program, which some of our citizens did, and it failed. So the joint powers agreement will dissolve on March 31st of this year. And the WRCOG WCE Management Services Agreement will terminate on April 21st, which means all their administration, everything should be done by April 21st. And the one thing that might be of interest to some people is they have about $5,000 in outstanding checks from when it was in operation. And this is due to the net energy metering program, which credits you for the electricity you generated from your solar panels. So some people have moved, they can't locate these people. So what they're going to do is they're going to forward these checks to the state of California. So if you know anybody that had WCE and they might get a credit for solar that they did not receive, have them check with the state. There's a website you can go on to see if you're owed any money. So that was my first and last meeting. Thank you. and I have more though, but that was just that. Okay, so the Western Riverside Council of Government, which is WRCOG, they did a presentation on the 2022 scoping plan for achieving carbon neutrality. And the plan lays out a path to achieve targets for carbon neutrality and to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 85% below 1990 levels no later than 2045. And there was a lot of discussion on this. There's a lot of non-believers that we can achieve it, and other people just think it's going to be too expensive and it won't work. So that was a big share of our meeting, that whole discussion on that. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the near future. So the financially, WRCOG is sitting pretty good, and we get reimbursement basically back from them for the transportation uniform mitigation fee, which is called TUMF, and then the local transportation fund. So those were looking really good, but they said that they might run a little bit short on deficiencies for their general fund and used oil within 10-year period, but they're looking at that and they're rebudgeting things, and basically it's in good shape. So we're okay with WRCOG. And my favorite committee, the Ramona Bowl, there's a special show this Saturday, March 18th, and it's for the Snowbirds. And it's basically a dress rehearsal. So anybody that is from out of town and can show proof that they're from out of town and they're a snowbird, the tickets are $15 for this show. And the regular season shows are the last 2 weekends in April and the first weekend in May. And we encourage everybody to go. And they're still looking for volunteers. There's so many things that people can volunteer for out there. There's teenager groups that need volunteer service time, and there's just adult groups and individuals. So if anybody wants to volunteer anytime at the bowl, give them a call at the Ramona Bowl, and they would love to tell you what's available for you. And you'll soon see a lot of advertising, and it'll include like signage and banners, and we're even going to have radio ads and interviews with some key people that are involved in the pageant. So great things happening for the 100th anniversary. Thank you.
For the Hemet Housing Authority, we haven't met. And then for the skate park committee, we're supposed to be holding a ceremony at Gibble Park, 9 a.m. on Tuesday, March 28th. Everybody's invited. We want you to come celebrate as we put some shows on the ground to showcase this $2.2 million project, which is going to have the, the concrete skate plaza, the bathtub, which is basically like, it's like an empty pool. And the organic flow bowls and the flat rail and the grind ledge, stair sets, and it'll also have the spectator seating and beautiful landscape. So I hope to see you guys out there at 9 a.m. I'm kind of sad I don't get to talk about it, but the mayor is going to get to talk about it along with the city manager. So mark your calendars, 9 a.m. March 28th. And then for the community action, I meet with them on Saturday, and she talked about League of Cities. But with WRCOG, I'm on a public safety, which we're going to meet tomorrow. So next meeting, I'll have some information about that.
Cool. Thank you. Skate Park Committee, you heard it from Malcolm. 28th, 9 o'clock, be there, all you skaters. League of California Cities, Linda had her information. I have an action alert, state budget priorities for cities. Cal Cities would like for all cities to send a letter to the budget committee chairs and vice chairs requesting investments in the 2023-24 state budget to bolster local government efforts to support our most vulnerable residents and ensure cities can thrive, and to also talk to your legislators on this topic. I have letters here, sample letters, so I can give these to you, city manager, if you'd like to go forward with it. Where's the other ones? That I don't know anything about. Western Community Energy, they're out of business. You already talked about that. Planning Commission. Well, we lost a, where'd it go? I have it here. I guess, Rallies withdrew their application, so they won't be building here in Hemet. Something about new owners. Zone Change 20-001 opened a conversation about the traffic flow issues we have surrounding Girard, Menlo, and Park Hill. So I think that is it for me, and we'll move on to ad hoc committee reports. And Council Protocol Ad hoc Committee, Peterson, Krupa, council members. Okay. Vision and Mission Ad hoc Committee, Lilienthal and Meyer.
We haven't met. We could probably end that.
Clean Up Graffiti Ad hoc Committee, Lilienthal Males. No, I don't know. No.
That's taken care of by the
That new one that we just signed or we just approved, okay, by the Lighthouse.
city manager. Do you know why the other group wasn't able to re-up?
Which group is that?
There was two groups. There was Liberty Ranch, and it's in our strategic. Yeah, how do you know why? I don't.
I'll have to follow up on that.
There's also Adopt a Block that does cleaning on Saturdays that they want to get involved also, so, and they're a nonprofit organization. Business Outreach Ad hoc Committee, Males Lilienthal, that's right. We have to get a meeting going for our business ad hoc. So I'll talk to you later on that, city manager, something we were doing prior. Caltrans Liaison Ad hoc Committee, Peterson Krupa. CDB Ad hoc Committee, Lilienthal Mills, we have a meeting next week.
Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday. So we'll have more on the next meeting. Banner Program Ad hoc Committee, Krupa Mills, that's already going. We have flyers out. We have people calling, and so we should have banners out soon, sometime in the near future. And then Veteran Memorial Ad hoc Committee, we would like to get together with NOAA to let us into the memorial park so we can do a visual out there. So I'll get with you tomorrow, email, and then we'll set up a time. Okay, and that's all the committees. We'll now move on to the city manager report.
I have a very brief report for you tonight. I just want to plug an art show on Thursday, March 30th. This is an art show that will run from 3:30 in the afternoon to 6:30 PM at the library. And I know our librarian is happy that I'm adding a little more exposure to this. So this is on our website under the calendar, and anyone interested can find more information there.
What was the date again?
It's Thursday, March 30th.
Thursday, March 30th.
And in the afternoon from 3:30 to 6:30 PM. And that's all.
That's the Exceed one?
Okay. I guess that was a yes. Do, do any members of the city council have any requests for future agenda items? Oh. No, no? Malcolm? No? Okay.
That too last time.
Hold on, I got one more page to go here. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to the next city council meeting on March 28th, 2023. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Sweet.